Hey, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where the inner warrior shines in their light. Today, I'm honored to have Talia Howard. Talia and I met when I was getting first started in real estate. We actually attended a memory session together, and her name was one of the first I had to learn to remember. And I've been affiliated with her ever since, and have followed her and her journey. And she's just an incredible woman, mother, realtor, just a powerful what I consider a warrior badass. So, Talia, I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome. It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. Definitely honored to share today.
I usually start with kind of the beginning, like where did you grow up, and where did you kind of formulate your childhood, from? Where did you start?
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from Arizona, born and
Another
raised.
unicorn.
Yeah. Yeah, not very many natives here, but I
No.
actually grew up in a very small, not even a town. It's called 11 Mile Corner, which is about 30 minutes outside of Casa Grande,
Okay.
down south. I grew up there in the desert on a land. My grandparents owned it, and we had a few family members there that all kind of lived on the land. And so that's where I grew up. Come from a family of five kids. Um, we grew up not a lot of money at all. Lived in a trailer. And I actually grew up in a very extreme religious, almost cult. And so my childhood was definitely colorful.
Would you say now, five siblings and your parents in a trailer out in the desert, um, it doesn't sound like it's a lot for a person to do and grow into. So, how did your childhood, like, did you have a lot of friends? Did you get in a lot of trouble? Did you have a lot of tumultuous, like, background, or was it joyful? I mean,
It was a mixture. There definitely wasn't a lot to do. I remember spending lots of days outside playing with my cousins, chickens. My grandparents had a farm as well. I remember lots of exploring in that sense. There was definitely some amazing, loving times when I was a child, and there was also some not so amazing times. Growing up in a extremely religious atmosphere, there was, a lot of shaming, lots of evil, lots of sinful things. And so, that definitely made an impact on me as a child. And I actually ran away starting when I was 13, and then was on my own at the age of 15,
oh
um,
wow.
because of just the environment that I was growing up in. I was considered a troublemaker, but looking at it back today, I definitely wasn't. I just wanted to do normal things like um, wear lip gloss and wear pants. We weren't allowed to really do much at all when we were young in terms of that. So, yeah,
So rebellious in their eyes, but normal in childhood eyes.
absolutely.
Yeah. So where does a 15-year-old run away to and start living on their own? Like, that's not easy even as an adult.
Yeah, I actually ran away and I hid in a friend's house. Actually hid under a bed for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
And at that point, my parents were going through a divorce as well. And so they kind of just gave up and let me go. Uh,
Wow.
and for at that time too, I also worked two jobs. I was working at Sonic, the burger place, and then I also worked at a Mexican restaurant called Mi Amigo Ricardo's in Casa Grande. And so I kind of just lived with friends, and then I ended up meeting a partner that I lived with him as well. And then when I was 16, I moved up to the valley And same thing, I kind of just moved all over the place. I was kind of considered myself a gypsy.
Hmm.
And then when I turned 18, I moved to California.
So how did the childhood, the the rebellious side of you and the running away side, how did that affect your siblings? Was your connection with them still there, or was it just a clean break from your entire family?
I've always had a relationship with my siblings. They've kind of all went through their own journey based on the environment that we grew up in. I would definitely say that, there was a lot of trauma there between everyone. And so, being a young child and teenager, you don't necessarily know how to work through those things. And so I would definitely say there were some other, things that came into play, in my childhood that affected our relationship as siblings also. Um, but all in all, we're close and we've always been close, but there's definitely, things that were there that kind of kept us from being super close when we were young. And they all have their own journeys, that they've gone through and endured, during that time period as well.
So going from small town rural BFE nowhere, um, then going to California, what part of California did you head to?
I was actually in Orange County area, so
Okay.
Santa Ana, Irvine area.
So that's got to be a culture shock and a difference, right?
Um, Kind of not really. By the time I moved up to the valley, I was already kind of in the city and meeting new people. And I would say that was probably a big, turning point for me. I just always remember, I've always been kind of the entrepreneur type. I remember growing up and just kind of seeing the way we lived and like seeing the way other people lived. And, I remember I used to always ask myself the questions when I was young, like, why is it that we live the way we live in terms of being poor? And why are there some people who drive these really nice cars and, we're not driving that type of thing? Or, these people have nice houses that don't have holes in the ground and we do. And so I remember asking those types of questions when I was young and thinking like, what do they know that we don't know? What are they doing that we don't do? And so when I left out on my own, that was kind of my goal, was to get those questions answered. And so I was fortunate enough to surround myself with people that were going somewhere in life. And I really think that was like a turning point for me in my teenage years of that's what I want. Like I want to live a good life, And so that's kind of what took me to California, was a business and kind of learning from those people. And so being in the valley, I was kind of already getting exposed to the city life, going out and things of that nature. So it was just kind of a natural progression for me to go to California. It wasn't a culture shock or anything at that point. I had already experienced so much. And so yeah, it was welcoming.
So from the standpoint of, working at Sonic and working at a restaurant, what did you do when you first came to the Valley for your job? Because you said something very interesting about you asked yourself these very specific questions about the differences in what you saw. And that's a very insightful, really deep question that a lot of adults don't even ask themselves, let alone younger children. So what did you do when you got to the valley that gave you some of that um, boost to because I've known you for almost 9 years now, and I know you to be a very successful entrepreneur. You're a fantastic realtor. You flip houses. You still have that nomadic spirit, and you travel. Hike, do all those things. But typically, when that happens, somebody has a mentor or a friend or an insight. And you sound like you had a combination of that.
Yeah, so when I moved, so one, I've never been to college. I knew right away I didn't want to go to college from a young age. I didn't like school. I love learning. I don't like school. And so I knew right away I wanted to kind of be out in the workforce. And at that time, for me, it was just making money, making money. And I didn't really know exactly how was the best way to make money. I came from the restaurant industry. I worked in the hospitality industry for a long time. And so when I moved to the Valley, that's what I did. I started working at restaurants still. I mean, I'd had two jobs. And I would say the one thing that really made a difference for me is I was always open-minded. Like
Mm.
anytime someone came to me and asked me, "Hey, are you interested in making more money?" I would always say yes. Like, yes, what can I do? What do I need to do? And so that was kind of the thing I feel like that really made a difference is being open-minded and not being closed-minded. And so I had some people that asked me, "Are you open to making money?" I said, absolutely. And so I kind of got introduced into some people who were doing business. And at that time, it was network marketing.
Hmm.
And, just being around that environment, I always say network marketing was the stepping stone into me being able to get into what I do now. It helped me in so many ways in terms of learning how to talk to people, learning how to close, learning sales, things of that nature. And so it was a great experience for me and I learned a lot. And I was able to visually see people making a ton of money, seeing the lifestyle. And I feel like that really opened the door for me into what I would eventually get into.
And when you went to California, you have, and I'm sure you've been told this, most of your life, you have this natural beauty about you.
Thank you.
It's not, you know, some people need the makeup and the glamour to make themselves look beautiful, but I've seen you in your hiking pictures, I've seen you in your, you know, whatever, and you have this natural beauty about you, and that comes from the inside out.
Mm,
I always believe that natural beauty comes from the inside out because you can have a pretty face and you're still not beautiful if you got
absolutely.
an ugly inside, but you have this natural inner beauty that glows. So when you went to California, did you get offering any modeling jobs or did you step into that world or did you avoid that?
I did. I did. And, it's interesting. Because I have a lot of people think a lot of things about me modeling and kind of the content and stuff that I've put out in the past. And modeling was actually one of my ways. So growing up, like I said, I was in the religious, extreme religion, and you know, um, I had really, really bad self-confidence issues. You're looking pretty when I was little, like that was a sin. Like it's vanity. Um, couldn't wear your hair down because that was worldly. And so just there was a lot of shame, guilt, like you shouldn't feel confident about your body and things of that nature. And so I grew up like that. And so when I got into modeling, it was almost my way of reclaiming my womanhood, reclaiming my femininity, being okay with feeling pretty. And so that was a whole journey in it of itself for me. And so when I went to California, I did get into some modeling and stuff, and I had a ton of fun doing that. But I didn't love the industry. It was very superficial,
Hmm.
um, very shallow. And so I loved the concept of, getting dressed up and the hair and the makeup and all of that. But I didn't like the people that I was working with. And so that was very short-lived. And then I continued to do stuff here and there, but it was just more of independent work, not necessarily with an agency or anything like that. And to this day, I still do work here and there. And it's more so just for me to continue to um, feel in my feminine. Every woman wants to feel beautiful. Every woman wants to, feel pretty and feel that. And so it's just kind of my way of reconnecting with myself. And it's a reminder to me that I don't need to be shameful about how I look. And continue to claim who I am and that I have the power to choose, what I want to do with that. But for me, that's definitely not my focus. Like you said, for me, it's the same. Internal beauty is everything. You can be the prettiest girl in the world, but if you have an ugly heart, you're ugly. And
Mhm.
eventually your looks are going to fade. And all that's going to matter is what's inside your heart. And so that's my number one focus is what do I look like on the inside? And so yeah, so modeling has definitely been something that I've done, and I'll probably do it, like I said, here and there. Um, and continue to do that. But it's just my way of expressing myself. It was my way of reclaiming my power as a woman because, we weren't allowed to feel pretty growing up. And so yeah, I would say that's it.
Well, you've done a great job of keeping that inner beauty. It shines in a lot of what you do and what I have seen. And it we've talked about this off camera. It shines in how you're raising your family, your boys. You're teaching them philosophies and discipline and the love of nature. You take them hiking everywhere. Um, what was your goal behind that when it comes to motherhood? Like growing up where you grew up, you were vowing to never have them have that kind of life and something entirely different, or what was your philosophy behind all that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I never wanted kids. I always said I'd never want kids. And then I feel like now, like I was literally put on this earth to be a mother. Having children completely changed my life. It completely just changed me, changed my perspective on everything. It's been just the most absolute blessing in the world for me. Um, Number one, yes, I vowed that I wanted to have them grow up in a loving and accepting environment. Um, I feel like when there's love and acceptance, that's when change and growth can truly happen. And so, for them, I wanted my number one goal with my children is for them to grow up to be happy, healthy, productive adults. And so, I have a saying that I always hold dear to my heart is, you prepare the children for the path, you do not prepare the path for the children. And I've seen, just watching how people raise their children, and I'm a very big observer. And so when I had my boys, it was my intention that I wanted to build their character. I wanted to build their resilience. I wanted them to be well-rounded. And so I honestly just kind of looked at, you know, myself as well. Like, what did I need as a child? What did I need as, a teenager and things of that nature? And I always try, even today, to look at things from their perspective. I always try to go back to what did I feel like when I was a child? What was I thinking? What was I feeling? And doing that just really helps me connect with them because as a parent, you look at children, you're like, oh, well, that's not really a big deal. But when you look at it from their level, no, that's everything in that moment. And so I think just having that mindset and I wanted them to have the best chance at life and the most healthiest environment for them. And that's definitely been my mindset with, raising them and just giving them um not possessions and stuff, but giving them knowledge and wisdom and experience. The things that are not tangible are the most important things. And so that's definitely been my goal with them.
What as a person who did not want children and who is now raising boys, what's been your, other than the fact that you now know that you're put on this earth to be a mom, what's been your most surprising thing about watching them grow up? Because we live in a multimedia society. We get to see a lot of you know everything, but internally we don't get to see what's really going on. We just get to see what people decide to show. So what has been, because you share, when they do the loving cards and the saying, and you share their jujitsu and some of their rough housing with each other as boys do. But What's been your most like endearing, surprising thing as you've watched these two young men, you know, come raise up?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, the most surprising is just how incredibly capable they are. You know, and that was kind of my mindset, since they were little, is I'm not going to put any limits on them. So many times we limit them, they don't limit themselves. And so, since they were young, like I've, been trying, with breath work, meditation, working out, um, writing love letters. What I can do, they can do. And we just have to, one is have the patience, um, be willing to invest into them. And so it just surprises me every day how incredibly capable they are, and just loving. I mean, they're incredible. And they teach me things all the time. I would say the one thing I love about children is, you know, they they see the magic in everything. They get so excited about ice cream. And I always think, like, at what point in our lives do we lose that? At what point in our lives do we lose the excitement and the magic over the ordinary things? And that's
Mhm.
one thing that I feel like I've had to learn to retrain myself, is finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And they're the ones that help me to remember that, like, I can be excited about something as simple as a sunset, or as simple as a sunrise, or the creeks and stuff like that. And so I would say, those are probably the most surprising and just enduring things that I've learned from them.
Yeah, one of my I remember one of the videos that you shared, and it was your youngest, and he was doing his breath work,
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, that is going to really carry him a long ways because that's a skill that they
Yeah.
don't teach us in school that is necessary outside of school, like the calming and the breath work and to stay centered. I think it's amazing that
Yeah.
you're willing to teach that. So.
And it's helped him a lot. My little one, he's got some struggles, like we all do, in terms of emotions and learning how to regulate that. And he has come a long ways, by providing, when you provide them tools and strategies, and you have to do it at a level that they can understand, and start really small. When they're small, they eventually start grasping the concept, and then, like I said, they're capable. You just have to be willing to put in that time into them, to be able to do that for them.
Well, it's certainly been incredible to see, and like I said, I hope future generations continue that. One of the other things that you've done, other than building your real estate empire, um, and you truly are a fantastic CEO badass, determined go-getter. But you also do a lot of, like I said, the nature, the traveling, the hiking, and you just came back from an incredible journey to Peru.
Mm.
What was that like for you?
Oh man, I've got asked this question a lot of times since I've been back. And I always say it's very hard to put into words. It was magical, it was unreal. I feel like Peru is a very spiritual place. As soon as I got in the jungle, and mind you, I wasn't in, like, the big city, or Lima, Cusco, or anything like that. I was about 40 miles outside of Quito. So I was, like, in the jungle, like real Amazon jungle, with the locals and stuff. And so I feel like I really got to experience the culture and what it's like to live in Peru. And it was just, I mean, it was magical, being around the trees, the water. We went on rides at night on the boat just to look at the stars. And just the animals, everything was just connected. And I feel like, for me personally, it just kind of helped me reconnect with myself. This past year has definitely been probably one of the hardest years um, I've been through. And going there just kind of helped relight the fire in me of what I need to do, what kind of life I want to live, what kind of life I want to create for my boys. And so for me personally, it was just kind of a realignment of what I wanted and what I needed. And so, I felt connected. I honestly felt like I was home, around everything. And it reconnected me back to my roots and what was important to me.
Well, this is again where I attribute your whatever it is that is guiding you to be this internal spiritual being. Because growing up in a cult, growing up in the desert, growing up poor could have gone in an entirely different direction. And you've transformed yourself and your life into a successful entrepreneur, a heart-centered person, a loving, caring individual, and also connected with the world around you. And it takes like, so when most people travel, they want to go to all the nice spots, right? You decide to drop yourself in the middle of the jungle. Now, you
Yeah.
didn't go alone, you went with a group of
Group of-
other individuals, but still, that's not your typical, hey, let's go to Peru activity. You went and immersed yourself in the most basic of elements that you could and found your heart centered connection to your spirit. That is not normal by normal standards, but it's beautiful by spiritual standards that I'm attesting it to. So I'm giving you major kudos for even thinking like that. Um, and I saw the pictures of the small children and the people you
Mhm.
were um, staying with, in the village and whatnot. Um, what was the most surprising thing that you saw? And I know you talked about earlier in one of your posts about, the joy in their basics. Like they just found joy. But what was one of your most surprising things being in the jungle?
Hmm. I would say how pure-hearted the people were. Their hearts were just so pure. Um, that day that I went with the children, that was honestly just life-changing, seeing them, seeing the way they live, the village. I mean, these people have nothing, no running water, no electricity. They live in open huts. They sleep on the floor or a hammock. And they're so unbelievably happy and just pure-hearted. And I think for me, and it was kind of just a testament and of my journey as well. I feel like we're all born pure-hearted. And through the course of our life, things happen. We get hurt, we get disappointed. Um, Things that we can't control when we're young, things we can control when we get older. And over a period of time, our hearts just get, and our souls, our spirits just get covered in muck. And we disconnect. We disconnect from people, we disconnect from ourselves, more importantly. And that was a process for me growing up, was getting rid of all the muck. I've always had a pure heart, but I never felt like I did because
Mhm.
of everything that I've been through and all the junk inside of us. And so that was a process of getting rid of all the junk. And when you get rid of all the junk, you're able to have and reconnect with your pure heart again. And when you have that pure heart, you're able to reconnect with yourself. You're able to connect with other people, in a level that you don't even realize. And so that was one of the things that just really struck with me with them, is they were just so pure hearted. There was no problem that they couldn't solve. Um, their attitudes about everything was just, it's okay. We'll figure it out. And so that's one of the main things that really struck out to me, was just how pure-hearted they were. And it wasn't for show, it wasn't because that's how they should be. That's truly who they were. And just, yeah, they're incredibly grateful, joyful, for just with the little bit they have. And it was funny. We were like, oh my God, like we are so spoiled. Like even in our worst days,
Yeah.
we've got it 100 times better than majority of the world. And so, yeah, it really put into perspective, even for me, even with the hardest year I've had in this past year with my divorce and everything that's happened. I am so incredibly blessed. Oh my God, blessed beyond measure. And so just being grateful for that was everything.
So you mentioned that you felt like you were home when you were there, and you also in one of your posts um, spoke about the femininity again, and I feel like this is a thread with your life is reconnecting with your femininity. There had to have been, some pretty deep traumas that took that away from you. But who was Talia before she went to Peru, and who is she today? What is that transformative, transformative difference?
Yeah, I definitely think, before I went to Peru, I've definitely been on a healing journey with everything that has happened. And yeah, for the longest time, I operated in my masculine energy. And it came more out of survival. I had to. The way I grew up, it was always just very masculine energy. And I brought that everywhere I went. There was a lot of I can't tell you how many times people have told me like, they were intimidated by me. I don't smile a lot. God, yeah, so many things. And
I can attest to that. When I first met you at that class, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not small. I'm almost 6 foot and 220, 230 somewhere in there. And you definitely were intimidating that day.
and I don't understand. I didn't understand it. I'm 5'2", I'm small. And so I didn't really understand it until not too long ago. And it is because, I did have a very tough exterior, and a very masculine energy. And so I've really worked, this past year on breaking that down and understanding though also like giving myself grace that it's okay. Like I did that because I had to do that. I was in a survival mode. I've been in survival mode for a really, really long time in my life. And I've been in the journey this past year of rebuilding trust within myself. So there are things that I want from other people. I want to feel safe. I want to feel trust. I want to feel respected. And then I realized those are the things that I need to do for myself first before I can ask somebody else to do that for me. And so I've been on this journey before I Peru of really cultivating that. And, rebuilding trust within yourself, that's hard. You've got to set boundaries for yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to take accountability for the decisions that you made, for the decisions that or for the things that you continue to let happen, for the environments that you allowed yourself to stay in for a long period of time, and losing yourself in that process. And so um I went to Peru working on that, but still a little not totally there. And coming back from that, I'm there. I've had things that have happened that have I've felt such confidence in myself and trust in myself that learning to listen to my body again, my gut instinct. I've run into a lot of situations just in the past couple of weeks where I wasn't sure, and just closing my eyes, tuning in, my body knows, I know. And so just really becoming, connected with myself at that level that I was at in Peru just really helped me regain my trust within myself, because that was probably my number one roadblock in the past year that I've had to work on, is trusting myself again, to know that I have the ability, the capability to make the right decision for me. Because sometimes we know what the right decision is, we know what we should say, we know we should speak up, we know we should do it, but we don't.
Hmm.
And then the more we do that, the more trust we lose within ourselves. And so just getting my power back to be able to articulate what I want, what I need, what I deserve, not only to other people, but to myself. And so that has been definitely a turning point for me coming back from Peru.
Well, it's living in alignment with our true authentic
Mhm.
person because, like you said, the muck of our lives covers up that reality of who we truly are, and we spend most of our adulthood scraping away all the muck so that we can reemerge as the true person, the authentic person, and not only feel connected to it again, but be bold enough to live it again,
Mhm.
not be bound by the opinions of others and the worry and stress of how it's going to be perceived, but just living in our own authenticity. And I think that's, was that your intent for going Peru, or was that uh, the great byproduct of it that was intended for you by going to Peru?
No, it was my intention.
Oh, good.
Went to Peru. Before I went to Peru, I created some intentions of what I wanted to get out of there, which I did, and I got so much more as well. But I wrote down my intentions before I went and what I felt I needed to reconnect with. Yeah.
I love that you had again the foresight to do that. I found through my own healing journey this year that sometimes we think we're going someplace for one purpose, but spirit, God, universe, whatever someone wants to call it, has directed us there for a vastly different purpose that we discover by being open-minded by going there in the first place. So I was just kind of curious if it was, your specific intent or if it was that underlying guidance to get you there to have that realignment. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got, like I said, I got so much more, but there was a lot of intention going to Peru, and I definitely feel like I got that along with so much more.
so if someone's listening to this and they're trying to realign with their life, clear away their muck. Did you pop out?
Okay.
You guys might have seen a momentary glitch in the video. We had a little technical issue, but we're back, and thank you for popping back in. I was starting to ask you. Forgot what I was starting to ask you. We were on a good flow. I know what I was asking you. If somebody's listening to this and they're trying to reconnect with themselves, a huge part of my audience is female. Um, I have a good share of men, but the vast majority are female. If they are trying to uncover their own muck from their life and their traumas and reheal and reconnect and recenter and bring forth that femininity that um, you know needs to be there for the connection, what would you advise to help with that process and to go through that?
Such a great question.
I'm
Um,
allowed one per interview. That was it.
I love it. Number one, I would say stillness. Um, so many times we don't allow ourselves to feel a lot of things. We distract ourselves, we eat, we drink, we do lots of things to numb ourselves. And that is, I feel like, the number one way of disconnection. And so I know for me personally, there have literally been times where I would just sit for 2 hours and I
Mm,
would just go back to things that really hurt, really affected me. And I would sit in those emotions and I would just bawl. Because what happens with emotions is when we suppress it, it gets stuck. It
Mm-hmm.
gets stuck in our bodies, and it's energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have, the anxieties and the worries, that like the emotions need to process. And that's one thing I never learned, was to process emotions and let it pass through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's work that I had to go backwards and do for so many instances in my life. And so I feel like, just when things happen and you're feeling a certain way, feel it, acknowledge it, honor it, and then get over it and
Mm-hmm.
pass through it. And I know for me, that has really helped with getting reconnected with myself, and just really understanding that it's okay. Like if I'm hurt, I embrace it, I welcome it, and then I move on. And that's been a huge thing for me in terms of just reconnecting with myself. Um, this is kind of, you know, I don't know if it's weird for people, but dancing, for
Mm-hmm.
me, dancing has
Movement.
been movement has been such a huge part of just reconnecting with myself, my femininity. Even if it's in my bedroom, I will literally put a song and just
Mm-hmm.
dance in my bedroom. Playfulness, like
Mm-hmm.
we lose that as a child, but that's humans. We're designed to be connected, whether it's with people or ourselves. And so, for me, dancing, whether it's just to a song, or I do some belly dancing, I do koya as well, which is healing through movement. I have a dear
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine that does that. And I've gone through that a few times, and that's helped. And so, I would say, and if you don't know where to start, find some people. I can't tell you how valuable having the right people around you is in where you want to go in life. And so, find people who do, koya or things of that nature, that will put you in a environment where you're supported.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it alone. And that's one of the big things that I've had, is the support. When I got divorced, I was very isolated. I didn't have any support system really at all. And so that was one thing I've really been working on in the last, 9, 12 months or so, is building a support system of people who are going to help me on this journey. And it's been just a complete turnaround for me by doing that. And so I would say definitely find some people, some support of people that want to do this journey with you, or on their own journey. They're in growth oriented as well, and they're looking for, to make that change also. And it's going to feel so much better when you have people who are around you, supporting you in your journey, and they're looking to do the same thing as you. So.
I have a friend who she talks about it as being issues in our tissues, and
Mm.
our trauma gets embedded in our DNA, and we start carrying it in ways that we're not even realizing we're carrying it. And I talk to my clients about this all the time. You have to be able to feel the emotion to heal from the emotion. And it's okay to rest and pause and to feel that discomfort. You just don't want to camp there. You don't want to stay there forever. It's okay to to work your way through it. Just don't allow yourself to stay there. And too many of us allow ourselves to stay there. So when you talk about the energy and the dancing, my wife and I dance. I mean, we say all the time, we're so glad there's no cameras in this house, because we just break out and dance and be
I love
silly,
it.
as
Be
often as we
silly.
can.
Yeah.
And we're both in our late 50s, and we're still acting like goofy little kids sometimes. But because we are all energy, and because everything around us is energy, if you block the energy from moving, you create some real havoc in your lives that you're not even aware of. And I often equate this to, carrying a bottle of water. If you put a bottle of water in your hand for the first 10 minutes, it's a bottle of water. But if you still have that bottle of water in your hand and you haven't set it down over 3 hours or 4 hours, after a while, you can't even pick up your hand.
Mm.
So it's not the weight of the water, it's how long we carry it. And it's the same with our traumas. It's not the weight of it. And you should never think that you're going to be able to do this by yourself. absurd. You know, we need help. We need to be bold enough to ask for help. And
We do.
so,
Yeah. I actually hired some coaches that have helped me, and they do a lot of, energy work and body work with trauma and stuff. And I had a certain situation, and I didn't even realize it, that when I would get into certain dynamics with individuals, and I would want to say something, I literally, like, I would hear it in my mind of what I wanted to say, but I literally could not get it out. Like, I felt this almost like a blockage in my throat, and I could not speak. I could not speak my need. I could not speak my want. I just did, and it stemmed from when I was a child. Like, our
mhm,
opinions didn't matter. Like, it
mhm,
doesn't matter what you want. You do what you're told. Like, what you think, what you want doesn't matter. And so I never learned how to voice it, but not even learn. I literally in my body couldn't speak. And
yeah,
so, they did some work on me and of helping that energy move out. And it was it was just incredible, like, how I felt afterwards. And now, I mean, in just a very short period of time, I have no problem now articulating what I need, what I want when I'm in a high stress situation or I'm in a situation that's very uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I mean, we need help, because we can't do it alone. There's things that you don't even understand about yourself. And so having those people around you to ask the right questions, so it makes you start thinking, and just understanding that our mind, our body, our hearts, they're all
yep.
connected. And so, going into that deep level will really help you uncover the layers within yourself.
Yeah, my wife's an energy worker, and the chakras are something we're very familiar with, and usually when for me, it was my heart. My heart chakra was like, I felt like the Grinch, where they say, "Oh, he does have a heart," and you see this little spark grow up, right? Buried deep. For a lot of people, it's also the throat chakra, because we are diminished as a child, and that's blocked for us, and then it stays blocked. But getting that all aligned again makes such a difference in your life. So as you look at your life and you look at what you've endured and where you've been and what you've done, other than being a mom, because you said you didn't want kids, but now you have kids and you're raising, and you're, other than that, what's been like your proudest transformation? For, because you wanted the money, you got the money, you wanted the house, you got the house, you did all these things, but what's been your proudest accomplishment of, from where you came to where you are?
I would say that, um, you know, with everything that I've been through, and you kind of touched on this earlier, I could have gone a lot of different ways. And the fact that I am where I'm at, despite everything that's happened to me, I'm incredibly proud of that. I had one of my coaches talk about, um, and I never really realized it until then, but he talked about me being a lotus flower.
Hmm.
Lotus literally
Hmm.
grows,
Through the
takes
mud.
the most yucky, muck, most crappiest environment, and it turns into this beautiful flower. And I never really understood that until he used that analogy. And then I was like, wow, that is true. Like, um, and I don't say that in an egotistical way or anything like that, but I am incredibly proud of just who I've become. I've made my mistakes, I've done my mess ups. And I'm okay with them. I've learned to give myself grace and to know that underneath everything that has happened, I have a pure heart. I know what my intentions and what my heart is. And so I'm incredibly proud of that. And I do feel like, like nature hiking and all of that has really been a journey for me. And it's interesting, like I never, like I've always been kind of an explorer, but I never really got into hiking in nature until about a couple of years ago. My little sister passed, and then 4 days later I was pregnant and I lost my baby as well. And that was probably one of the hardest weeks of my life. And for a good year, I just kind of lost my mind for a bit. And hiking was in nature was honestly just my therapy to help me through that. And I found just beauty in the simple things, and it really changed my perspective on so many things in life. um I find simple joy in just being in nature now, and it's helped me tremendously. And so that has all been a part of my process and my journey into where I'm at now. And I'm incredibly proud of myself. um like I said, I could have gone a completely different ways. And I'm just thankful to God that he's guided me as well. um and has given me the heart, the mind, everything that, is inside of me. And so, yeah, I would say that's probably it.
Well, I can tell from when I first met you to who you are today, there's been an extreme transformation from within. And, I am incredibly happy when I find people like you who are in my tribe, because the heart and the soul, the energy, the spirit, that's all what I try to help my clients with, and what I surround myself with. I don't like the fake. I don't like the positive toxicity people. I like the people who keep it real and authentic.
Mhm.
There's, as you said before, there's always a way out if we look for it. You just got to go within a little deeper sometimes, and I appreciate that in you. So I'm going to ask you one last question, and I ask it to everybody. What does having a warrior spirit mean to Talia?
Good question. What does it mean to me? I would say that having a warrior spirit just means that you have the courage to do what's right, to live your authentic life. Um, it doesn't mean that you don't have fear. Everyone has fears, everyone has insecurities. It just means that you still do things despite them. And not only that, but you have the ability to step outside of yourself and inspire others. I feel like that's where the true fulfillment and warrior spirit comes from. Is it's not only about yourself, it's about, once you get there, how can I help as many people as possible? Feel the way I feel, or get the knowledge that I have, or share whatever, I've learned, because people need it in the world today. And so it's not just about yourself, it's how many other people can I help around me and in my life, to make their life better. So I feel like, you've definitely got to take care of yourself, but then how can I help others and that's the real fulfilling piece, is when you can help someone else get through their stuff.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you are of that mindset. And, thank you for, coming on and sharing your incredible journey and where you've been. And it's just a pleasure to, know you, and, many blessings to you and your family.
Thank you, Daryl. I so appreciate, and I absolutely respect you for having this platform. I think it's, like I said, it's about helping other people. And I love that you do this to give other people insights and inspiration to make changes in their lives. So thank you so much for what you do, and love you and your wife. And you guys are incredible people as well.
Thank you. Well, you have a blessed rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.